What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC Vegas 80. We got Grant Dawson taking on Bobby Green.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another betting breakdown video. This week we are breaking down UFC Vegas 80. We are back in the Apex after a 1 week break. And yeah, 11 fight card this week. And then yeah, from a betting perspective, this is a fight card where from a units staked standpoint, I'm only 5.25 units deep on this card, but 14 bets total, but 13 of those bets are plus money. So taking a bunch of big plus money shots here, some dart throws. We're going to miss a lot, but we'll see if we can hit a couple. And only hitting a couple is going to turn some profit here. So looking forward to getting back into it. Having a really good year thus far. 2023 up 66 units with a 20% ROI, coming off of a really good card 2 weeks ago where I went plus 5.61 units. And the week prior to that was UFC Noche, where I went plus 9.28 units. So we're starting the fourth quarter here, and we're going to see if we can start this fourth quarter out with a winning night. So before we get all to it, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It'll be always appreciated there. And then also I'll be going live fight day, 1 o'clock Eastern time for some best bet. We got Cody Blood Money joining us, and then also Patrick Addicted Combat. So good panel for fight day there for some best bets. So be sure to subscribe so not miss out on that. All right, I say we get into it then. And we're going to start with the first fight of the card. We got J.J. Aldrich taking on Montana De La Rosa. And this is a fight where I wish I would have researched this fight a lot earlier than I did. I got into it on, I think, Saturday or Sunday. And by the time I researched the fight and all that, Montana De La Rosa was no longer an underdog. So De La Rosa actually opened up plus 170. She was sitting around plus 120 for a good week or so. So missed the boat on the plus money of De La Rosa. And now she's sitting as a minus 145 favorite, which I don't love as much. What I don't mind, though, is Montana De La Rosa inside the distance is plus 400 on BetRivers Sportsbook. So I took a half unit shot on that. The reason being is Montana De La Rosa is a finisher. She's finished 75% of her wins, and she has 10 UFC wins, and she actually only has one decision win in those 10 UFC fights. And that was a fight against Mara Morella Barella, where she actually had a knockdown in that fight, a couple submission attempts as well. But she's finished, I think, 3 or 4 other wins in the UFC. So I think it's a fight where Montana De La Rosa, if she gets her way, it's going to be getting the fight down to the mat. And when she does get the fight down to the mat, she's dangerous. She has a submission game. She has ground and pound. And we've seen Aldrich finished in 3 of her 6 losses, half her losses there. So I'm taking a half unit shot on Montana De La Rosa inside the distance. If you got the plus money, you did your job. But yeah, I think Montana De La Rosa wins this fight and potentially inside the distance as well. Moving on, we got Mateus Mendonça going against Nate Maness. I'm passing on this fight. I refuse to bet Nate Maness fights. I mean, I can't get this guy right to save my life, and that's all right. When there's some fighters you just can't get right, nothing wrong with forcing bets. Kevin Holland's another guy that I just can't seem to get right. And Nate Maness, I mean, I lost money on 4 out of 5 Nate Maness fights, and I think I've picked against him in every single fight, and I will continue to pick against him, but he always seems to find a way to win. Like, he always seems to win fights where he's getting dominated and losing. It's just, Nate Maness fights don't make a ton of sense to me. What also doesn't make a ton of sense is Mateus Mendonça being minus 260, so yeah, I can't touch this fight. It's probably a dog or pass, but I refuse to put any money on Nate Maness. I'm not a big fan of the volume. I'm not a big fan of the striking offense or defense. I'm not a big fan of the ground game in Nate Maness, but he always finds a way. Always finds a way. Picking Mendonça, but I'm not betting this fight, and we can move on. Next, we got Kanaka Murata going against Vanessa Demopoulos. We got Murata as a pretty big favorite here. So the way I'm playing this fight is I'm taking the fight to end by submission, half a unit plus 360. I think there's going to be opportunities from really both sides here. I think Demopoulos' one path to victory in this fight is a submission, is an armbar from guard. Demopoulos is a black belt in BJJ. She does have multiple submissions. About half her wins do come by submission. And she's going to kind of get the fight she wants, in a sense that the fight is probably going to take place on the mat. Murata is a very, very good wrestler, a very good grappler. And I think she's going to be able to get takedowns at will here. Demopoulos, I don't think her takedown defense is good at all, and she'll more than likely welcome the takedowns as well. So yeah, Murata should be able to get takedowns here, and I think Murata is going to have a ton of control time in this one. I could see 10, 11, 12, 13 minutes of control time. And with all that control time, I think some submission attempts are going to open up. So I think decision's probably most likely, but I think there's going to be a multiple submission attempts on either side here. And I think the fight ends by submission at plus 350 for half a unit is worth a vote this week. Moving on, we got Johnny Munoz Jr., Richie Long. My least favorite fight on the card. I'm not a big fan of either of these guys. It's a pick'em, and it's a pick'em for a reason. Although I am surprised it's a pick'em because I haven't really seen anybody pick a Richie Long. I mean, I'm picking a Richie Long, but with like negative 1,000,000 confidence. But I think his takedown defense is kind of underrated. I know on paper it's 55%. That's a big talking point, but a lot of that has to do with, I mean, Cody Durden took him down 5-6 times, and each and every time Cody Durden took him down, he was able to pop back up. Even Jay Perrin took him down twice, but he was able to pop right back up. See, I don't think Richie Long's takedown defense is as bad as the on paper 55% does indicate, but if Munoz does get this fight down to the mat, and if he is able to secure it position, he probably does get a sub. So if I was to play this fight, it probably would be like Munoz by sub, but it's not the best price in the world, only plus 265. It's a fight I'm just going to pass on. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be greasy, and I think it probably goes to decision as well. So it's a fight I'm going to stay away from. Moving on, we got Karolina Kowalkiewicz going against Diana Belbita. A fight that I'm content to pass on as well. I do like the Karolina Kowalkiewicz side. I was hoping for a better price. Not going to get it. I think they're onto it there. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, I think she has more paths to victory in this one. If she stands and strikes with Belbita, though, for 15 minutes, I think it's going to get pretty interesting because Belbita is very high volume. I think in terms of the numbers, Belbita is the highest volume striker on the entire card. But Karolina just has such a clear path to victory, and that's going to be mixing in the takedowns. We've seen very bad fighters go out there and take down and control Diana Belbita. Like Hannah Goldie took her down twice. I think Gloria DePaula took her down. Molly McCann took her down like 5 times. So, I mean, if those fighters can do it, I think Karolina could. It's just, will she do it? I'm not sure. She should, but it's not something I'm entirely sure she will. So, give me Karolina for the win, but I'm not touching the money line there at chalk. All right, next we got Bill Algeo taking on Alexander Hernandez. Very, very interesting fight here to talk about because we have a line flip. Alexander Hernandez was a dog. He is now the favorite here, and I'm just refreshing my screen. It happened with like recently. So Alexander Hernandez anywhere from minus 120 to minus 130. Bill Algeo anywhere from plus 100 to even plus 107.08 out there. So yeah, line flip here, and it's kind of expected. A lot of people are on Alexander Hernandez, a lot of very sharp people, and it looks like Alexander Hernandez is kind of the sharp play of the week, and I get it. Hernandez, I actually think he's the better fighter. I think skill for skill, he's the better fighter in this matchup, but the reason I can't put any money behind Alexander Hernandez is the cardio issues. I mean, we've seen him slow down in pretty much every single fight. The durability issues, we've seen him finished in pretty much every single one of his losses. And just the heart issues as well. We've seen him quit in fights. We've seen him look for the door. And he went the full 15 in his last fight against Jim Miller, but that's a 40-year-old Jim Miller who has about a round of gas himself, and that was at 155. This is going to be Hernandez's second cut to 145. I just don't have any evidence that Hernandez has all of a sudden magically fixed his cardio or durability issues. So I can't personally get to the Hernandez side. I'm not flipping. A couple people asked me if I'm flipping my pick because of the line movement. No, I'm not. I'm still going to pick Bill Algeo to win, but I think if you're on the Hernandez side, I think the decision only at plus money is probably the way to go, because if this fight does go 15 minutes, I think Hernandez probably gets it done. I think Hernandez absolutely wins the first round. It's just, once that fight hits the 7.5 minute mark, Hernandez seems to just fall off a cliff. This guy can't battle any adversity. So what I did personally was I did take a quarter unit shot on these Bill Algeo 2-3 props, just because they're way too juicy not to. I mean, Bill Algeo, I think if he wins this fight, it's got to be a late finish. I don't really see him winning a decision. I think he's going to lose the first round, absolutely. So I might be looking at this from like a live bet standpoint, but I did sprinkle Algeo round 2, quarter unit plus 950, and then Algeo round 3, quarter unit plus 1,600. Pretty ridiculous numbers considering that's how I think he wins the fight. So that's how I'm attacking it. And then I also did consider that Hernandez decision only as well. I think if it goes to decision, he should be able to probably get it done. All right, moving on. We got Ian Cutelaba going against Philippe Lins. Typically, I try to stay away from Ian Cutelaba fights. His fights are just chaotic. They're really hard to predict because that's because Cutelaba is a very chaotic and hard to predict person. I mean, this guy's a complete madman. He's a wild man. You never know what he's going to do. He makes terrible decisions in the cage. He makes mistake after mistake after mistake. He's a dangerous fighter. He has some skills, but he's one of those guys where if he's not able to finish you in the first 5 minutes, he will crumble and look for a way out and get it finished. I was going through the losses of Cutelaba, and Cutelaba's been finished 7 times in the UFC, which is very impressive numbers there. I mean, getting finished 7 times is very hard to do, so shout out to Cutelaba. That is a lot of finished losses there. What I did do here is I don't want to be too exposed to this fight. I think the under 1.5 was a good look on like Monday when it was plus money, but it got completely hammered throughout the week, and now it's like minus 150. I don't love it, but what I did do is I took a quarter unit shot on Philippe Lins to win this fight by submission. Quarter unit, plus 850. Philippe Lins is a black belt in BJJ. Philippe Lins has some submissions on his record, and Cutelaba loves to get submitted. I mean, that's his favorite pastime. I mean, he's been submitted 4 times in his career, and he makes a ton of bad decisions. I think this fight can play out on the mat, and when it does, Cutelaba puts himself into bad spots. So I think the black belt of Philippe Lins will be able to have some opportunities here. I think Cutelaba could also take off Lins' head in the first round as well. But it's a fight where I could see like 70 different outcomes. And typically when I can see 70 different outcomes, I kind of want to stay away. So going very light with a small sprinkle on Lins sub. Moving on, we got Drew Dober going against Ricky Glenn. A fight that when I first saw it, I was like, man, this shouldn't be sanctioned. Who made this fight? But I kind of see why they're doing it. I think they're wanting to get fan favorite Drew Dober back on track here, and they're doing so against Rick Glenn, who just looked atrocious in his last fight against Chris Giagos. And that fight didn't last too long, but he just looked washed. He looked slow. He looked bad. He looked like he's way past his prime, which I think he kind of is. I think, Ricky Glenn, although he's only 34 years old, this guy's been so inactive the last couple of years. I think he's, dealing with some injuries. I don't know. It just didn't look great. So if he shows up in this fight against Drew Dober, and it looks anything like it did in his last fight, which I kind of feel like it will look a little bit like it because he's only getting older, right? I think Dober's going to make this look quite easy in this one. So what I did do was I put a half unit on Dober KO1 plus 200 on Bet Rivers, and then a half unit on Dober KO2 at plus 470. I think Dober finished this fight within the first 10 minutes of it. So give me Dober to knock out Ricky Glenn. I lean first round, but give me the second round as well to cover both rounds there. Next, we got Joaquin Buckley going against Alex Morono. So a bet that I had circled all week was the fight to end by knockout. 1 unit, minus 121. And after the weigh-ins, I do like that, and I like it much more. Alex Morono looked horrible at the weigh-ins, and some people have been saying, oh, he always looks terrible. Yeah, he never looks amazing, but, I can't recall ever seeing a time where Alex Morono, looked like this. I mean, like dying. So, yeah, I mean, Alex Morono looked like he was dying today, and I don't know. Plus, I didn't like the matchup for him really to begin with. I think, he's a popular dog, and I think that's because minute for minute, this fight should be pretty close. But I think Buckley has just ridiculous power. Morono gets hit a lot. I think these guys are going to stand and bang on top of the weight cut. I think Buckley knocks him out. But I also think Morono can knock out Buckley. I think this is going to be a stand-up war. Morono's a black belt, but refuses to use it. I don't see any grappling here. I see these guys standing and banging. I think somebody gets caught. Buckley's been knocked out 4 times. Morono's been knocked out 3 times. Both these guys have power. I think the fight ending by knockout at minus 121 is a solid look this week, and it's the only bet this week where I am laying minus money. So 1 unit on that. Moving on, we got Joe Pyfer going against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, taking some plus money shots on this one. So I think the obvious, most likely path to victory here is probably Joe Pyfer by knockout in the first round. But Joe Pyfer by knockout's minus 175. That's no fun. What is fun, though, is my read on this fight. When I researched it on last Saturday, last Friday, whatever, my read on this fight was Joe Pyfer to go out there and look minus 400 where he's lined. He has to go out there and grapple, because if he does, yeah, I mean, he makes this look easy. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan's takedown defense is horrible. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan's ground game is not good. Joe Pyfer is going to have a significant advantage in terms of the ground game. I mean, Jacob Malkoun finishes nobody. was very close to submitting Abdulrazak Al-Hassan multiple times in the second round. Jacob Malkoun has 0 subs on his record. Joe Pyfer's a Renzo Gracie Philly guy. He's trained with Sean Brady, Andre Petrosky, guys like that on the daily. This guy has grappling in his back pocket. It's just he hasn't used it in a while, and it has been a while. It's just, why would you use it against Gerald Meerschaert? Why would you use it against Alan Amidowski? You should use it against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. I mean, if Joe Pyfer wants to go out there and say, who's the harder hitter? If he wants to test and say, who's the harder hitter, I don't think he could. I wouldn't be laying minus 400 on him at that point, right? Like, if he goes out there and wants to test his power against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, that's giving Abdulrazak Al-Hassan his one path to victory, which is literally a first-round knockout. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, 12 wins, 12 of them by knockout, 11 of them in the first round. So I guess it all comes down to the game plan of Pyfer. Does he go out there and stand and bang? If he does that, could he win? Sure. But I wouldn't feel too comfortable with that. Or does he go out there, take this fight down to the mat, and make it look easy? So we'll see what game plan Pyfer comes in here with. He did hint at grappling a little bit in his interview, which I do like. So the bets I have here, I think if you're on the Al-Hassan side, and honestly, even if you're not on the Al-Hassan side, Abdulrazak Al-Hassan by first-round knockout is always a bet you have to take a look at. And this week, it's plus 950. I have a quarter unit on Abdulrazak Al-Hassan to win by first-round knockout. I think that's his win condition. And then I also took a quarter unit on Joe Pyfer to win by submission, plus 600. I think that's his best path to victory, his easiest path to victory, I should say. And then I also put a 0.15 unit Joe Pyfer sub 2, plus 3,100, and then a 0.10 unit Joe Pyfer sub 3 on DraftKings, plus 5,500. I think Pyfer can take this guy down, drown him, and get the submission in the second or third round there. But I do have a kind of a funny feeling that Pyfer is going to go out there and stand and bang with Al-Hassan for what it's worth. But those sub numbers are certainly juicy enough for me to take a couple small shots. So only 0.75 units invested in this fight, hoping for either an Al-Hassan first round knockout or a Pyfer sub, and I'll be pretty happy there. All right, moving on to the main event. We got Grant Dawson taking on Bobby Green. Yeah, I like Dawson here. Minus 520 now, so money has been coming in on Dawson, and yeah, I think he pays off the price tag. I think he goes out there. I think he makes it look pretty dominant. I think it makes it look a lot more dominant than a lot of people are expecting. I think a lot of people are expecting maybe like a 5-round decision here, and I think even Dawson is expecting a 5-round decision. He said at the face-offs today that he's going to hump Bobby Green's leg for 25 minutes. I think it makes it look easy. Like, I think he's going to take down Bobby Green easily. I don't think Bobby Green's going to be able to do anything about it. And I think he's going to get into dominant positions here in each and every single round, whether that be mount or the back, or taking the back there. And I think he's going to have a bunch of finishing opportunities. If this fight reaches the 4th or 5th round, though, I do have serious concerns. Like, we've seen Dawson slow down very badly in 3-round fights. Obviously, it's been a while since it's happened. Actually, not really. I mean, it was like 2 years ago against Ricky Glenn where he basically could barely get up after the 3rd round. So, yeah, I mean, if this fight does reach the 4th and 5th, I would not be too happy about holding a Dawson minus 520 ticket. So what I did was I put a half-unit shot on Dawson to win this fight in either the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round. The majority of Dawson's wins come in the 2nd or 3rd round. It's a lot of 3rd-round finishes especially, and I think in the 2nd or 3rd round he will find a finish. And then what I also did was I sprinkled a quarter unit on Dawson to win by knockout at plus 500. Obviously, I do lean submission, but I think there's going to be a bunch of ground and pound opportunities here. We saw Islam Makhachev take down and ground and pound Bobby Green easily, and I mean easily. And I could very much see that happening in this fight as well. So I think Dawson, like I said, probably sub, but the KO prop at plus 500, I think there will be opportunities for that with some GMP. So yeah, give me Dawson, 1, 2, 3. Dawson KO, 0.75 units invested in this fight as a whole. So there you have it, guys. It's a week where no big plays. I'm laying minus money on one bet this week. 13 plus money bets. When you do this, you are going to get a lot wrong, but you don't need to get a lot right to have a good night. So that's the plan here. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Best of luck, everybody, with your bets. Leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check out Best Bet on Fight Day, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And glad to be back, and let's finish the year strong. Best of luck, guys. See you later.